Hey, this is Brimstone. You're watching AFK away from the keyboard. Ain't no better place to be than right here watching now.
This is Robert. We are at Austin Comic Con 2013. I almost said 2014. And chilling out a little bit on the couch. I'm talking with Hope, who's our new co-host. You've seen her do a couple interviews and whatnot. So we're going to get to know Hope, a intro to Hope.
Wah, wah, wah. Love puns on my names. It's great. Hi, I'm Hope Clark. I am here in Texas working with the AFK show. Totally psyched. It's my chance to really get to go to some of these cons, really get in there, see what's going on, have the full Comic-Con experience. We have been seeing some of the greatest stuff at this Comic-Con. There's been great cosplayers, some really well-known cosplayers. There's been artists. There's been celebrities. There's been some legendary celebrities like
Bruce
Stan
Campbell.
Lee, Bruce Campbell, William Shatner,
Scott Bakula,
Scott Bakula,
James Hong, who we filmed today, Kelly Hu, and then, of course, the most famous celebrity of all, Brimstone. I have to plug in because he's my long-lost brother.
You guys did seem to hit it off, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, we're pals. We're like this.
Like this.
So, unlike our last two co-hosts, I don't think you are a Comic-Con version.
I am not. I love Comic-Cons. It is my chance to come and just really geek out over stuff I love. I am not a closet geek. A lot of people are like, yeah, I like comics. Or, yeah, I LARP. I am not. I'm like, yeah, I love comics. Yes, I'm a LARPer. I go out and beat my friends with foam-padded swords.
As should everybody.
Exactly. It's great stress relief.
I used to
Really.
beat Ken with padded swords all the time. It was great fun.
See? And I bet he enjoyed it.
He tried the cheating because he had the full breastplate armor, full plate armor. You know, so 6 points of armor. That, yeah,
Well,
we
you
got
know.
him. We got him.
If you're going to wear the full armor and put up with how hard it is to put on, how hard it is to take off, how heavy it is, and especially here in Texas, if you're wearing it out in this heat, you got to give them the extra points.
Well, you can't complain too much about taking it on and off because I'm the one that always had to buckle them in, and you know, so he didn't even know how to put it on the first time. I had to teach him how to do it. Oh, that's right. I'm going there.
He was an armor virgin.
He was an armor virgin. I took Ken to his first Ren Fair.
Aww.
I broke his cherry.
You broke his Rennie cherry.
I did. And Thomas over there, too. And Ken's wife. And her parents. I popped a lot of Ren Fair cherries.
Well, you can't pop mine. I was doing Ren Fairs well before I was doing Comic-Cons.
Same here. I did my first Ren Fair in 97? Somewhere around there. I was 15. So however old I was, yeah, whatever year that was.
I could never really get years and ages straight.
Yeah.
I always have to count up. It's like, wait a second, how old am I again?
I'm old and senile. It doesn't work no more. So we can tell from your hat, you like Firefly.
No. Hate it. Sucky show. It was only on for like one season. I mean,
know.
come on.
What's up with that crap? Stupid
Brown
show.
coats rule. We are awesome. So very awesome. So very passionate. Great show. Anytime someone tells me that they didn't like the show, I am just flabbergasted. How can you not like Cowboys in Space? Come on.
You know-
and you even get hookers as well.
You know, Ken's never seen it.
Seriously.
Seriously.
Wow. So that is something that I'm gonna have to fix.
I was telling him about it yesterday. I told him he'd probably like it.
It's really fantastic and such a great cast as well. I mean, we've got Jill State, we've got Nathan Fillion, we've got Alan Tudyk, many more. I could sit here and list them all, but But they were such great actors, and they're really great people. They really work together. You can tell they're all great friends, and it really comes through in the show. So when you have a great cast, you have a great story. It's something that can change people's lives. And I know that sounds really silly, but I know those people at home that are like, yes, it changed my life.
Well, look at Star Trek and all the lives it's
Yeah.
touched. Except for we're not going to mention the Jar Jar Abrams version. I refuse to acknowledge him as anything other than Jar Jar Abrams. Because he, in his little interview that he did with Jon Stewart, he's talking about, I never understood Star Trek. It was too smart for me. I had to make it stupid so I could understand it. I hate you, Jar Jar. I hate you.
But there's fandoms of all kinds. You've got Star Trek, you've got Star Wars. A lot of times they're battling each other. I say, why not love both? They're both awesome. Both great crew.
I'll give Star Wars ground battles. I'll give them the ground battles. Even though phaser rifles and stuff are way more powerful, but, they got the swarm and fodder. But let's face it, folks. Federation ships will always pwn Star Wars ships. It's just a fact of life. Deal with it. It's true. It's true. One photon torpedo and it's gone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Lasers cannot even penetrate their navigational shields on a Federation ship. Sorry.
True, but maybe they can fly in and, to the core. Blow up the core.
Trek ships are faster, stronger, better equipped, more powerful, better weapons. Not going to happen. And they don't have big giant holes in them that you can fly an entire ship through.
Well, there is that. But both of them are really great works of art.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
I love
are
both.
Great stories. They're both really well done. And fandom like that, it really does change a person's life. And I love that. I love it. It's awesome.
Nerds and our obsessions. Only here do people understand us.
Exactly. So when I come here, I don't really get those odd looks of, who is this girl and do I need to call someone? When I see something and I absolutely love it, I'm a huge fan of it, and I'm just like, and just bouncing up and down like, a child that just saw their favorite toy.
And she literally did go and bounce up and down when she saw a Punisher action figure.
I really did.
She did. It was cute.
Well, really, there is not enough love for the Punisher. I know a lot of people are like, he's a murderous bastard.
Well, so is the Shadow, and he's a badass, so,
Yeah, he might murder people, but do his villains come back? No. He's great. He has his own sense of code, as messed up as some people might find it. But he's not really on the level of some of the superheroes to some fans' eyes. And so when you come to Comic-Cons and when you're looking through stuff, you don't really see that much love for Punisher. So when I come and I see artwork, I see figurines and T-shirts and all kinds of Punisher paraphernalia, I just get so happy.
Well, that's like me. I mean, I love, of course, Superman is always my favorite, but he gets plenty of love. But
does.
my other guys, Dr. Fate, when you hardly ever see any Dr. Fate
Nope.
stuff. The Shadow, you hardly ever
Nope.
see anything with the Shadow. Alan Scott, again, you never see. They don't get any love. And those are like three iconic characters that were created back in the Golden Age. Have been around for 70 plus years, and no one knows who they are. It's depressing.
That is depressing.
It is depressing, especially with the Shadow, because so many characters are based on him.
Well, yeah, I mean, wasn't Batman based off of that character?
Very, very heavily. Batman, the only thing that Bob Kane did is he didn't give Batman a gun, which he originally had intended to do, but he didn't want him to have a gun because he's like, that's just too much like the Shadow. So he took away the gun. And then, of course, later in the 70s, they gave him one anyway, and he went around shooting people with it. But that's besides the point.
Woo!
But the whole, like, using fear and intimidation and lurking in the shadows and being the millionaire playboy, that was all Lamont Cranston. That was the Shadow's alter ego. He was the first one to do that. And the Shadow was created in 1931. He predates Superman by several years. And he wasn't necessarily a comic character. He was a pulp magazine character. And, of course, they had the radio show, and he's moved into comics and all that since then. But, you know, he probably was the very first modern superhero. Because he did have powers. He has his powers to control men's minds. And in the radio, he had... they couldn't really depict that on the radio, so he could turn invisible. And that's kind of stuck, So, he had actual powers, but they were like, he learned them through meditation and study and stuff like that. So, I'm a Shadow nerd. I like the Shadow.
It is a shame that these really great characters just don't get enough love. And, they should bring more Shadow figures and paraphernalia and stuff. They should really cater to that.
There's a lot of Golden Age characters that people don't probably even realize that were created in the Golden Age. The Guardian from DC that runs around Metropolis, he was created in the 40s. I bet you didn't know that.
I didn't.
Yeah, I bet you did. Hourman, another guy created in the 40s. Green Arrow, created in the 40s. And actually, his original origin story, I haven't read the new Green Arrow comics in the modern version, so I don't know if it's the same or not. But in the original version, he was shipwrecked and lived on this desert island. And to survive, he made a bow and arrow. And so I forget what he made the arrow out of, but it was something that was green. So he called himself the Green Arrow. Then he gets picked up by the ship after years. And he goes back to the city and becomes a vigilante and all that. And it's like pretty interesting background. It's like Tom Hanks is Green Arrow, Castaway. Now, that'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. I really have the respect for the 40s characters that stick around because that was during the time where comic books were just demonized here in America. I mean, they even said that comic books caused asthma because kids weren't getting out. They were sitting inside reading these evil comic books, And so people were just demonizing it. And so these comic book writers really had to go through some hoops to get their stuff out there and get what they envisioned for the character out there. And even still, they were censored.
Oh, yeah, really up until the 60s. And then finally in the 60s, you had like the Green Arrow episode with Speedy. And who would have thought Speedy was a crackhead? The name like Speedy.
Certainly not me.
that kind of helped start bringing down the barriers a bit. And then, of course, you had Stan Lee doing his thing with the X-Men and all that. And that helped. Or was that more 70s? I don't know. I'm not a big Marvel fan.
It was about the 60s. The X-Men were before the 60s, but around the 60s, that was the height for Marvel. I mean, that was when Stan Lee really took the initiative to make what he called adult fairy tales.
Right.
And I love it because it's true. Comic books, as much as they are for kids, they're also for adults. We love our fairy tales.
Yeah, it's modern mythology. It's all it is.
Exactly.
It's Hercules and Zeus and all of them just redefined.
Exactly.
And Ken says somebody said that earlier in the panel. You can't hear Ken because he's not talking into a microphone.
But he really went above and beyond of what we really saw in comics. Stan Lee was actually one of the first writers where we started to bond with the person behind the mask. For a while it's like, oh, they're super, they've got this outfit, and we only know their super side. And then he really gets them down to where they're having real world problems. They have emotions, they're angsty. You really start to know that person behind the mask. And that's when the readers really started to bond with these characters. And I love Stan Lee for that. I mean, can you tell?
I don't think she's a Stan Lee fan. I really don't.
No.
Okay, so find out a few more tidbits because it was actually supposed to be a whole introduction.
Whoa, you
Sorry.
wanted us to banter, so we're bantering.
We're talking nerdy.
This is what happens when you put nerds together.
It's a separate little
Right.
episode.
Okay, so other than Firefly and Stan Lee and LARPing, tell us more of your nerd cred.
Oh man, I am pretty versatile in the nerd world. I mean, I really almost anything nerdy. I love games. I love games of all kinds. Board games, card games, role-playing games, tabletop games. Any kind of game, video games.
She got to
anything
roll
I
the
can
giant
play.
D20 today, and it made her so happy.
I rolled a 17. Not quite a crit, but a 17.
You may remember the giant D20 from our interview last year with the giant D20 guy.
I really have to get me one of those.
Long. His name is Long. We also saw him. Yeah, his name is Long, but he's really short, and he's Asian. So I guess that's makes it even more ironic. And we also saw him up at AllCon. He was like one of their MC type guys running a bunch of stuff. He's a really cool dude. So yeah, but
Very cool.
she it was funny though. She saw him walking around with the D20. She's like, I want to roll that. While
I
we were
have to
interviewing
roll it.
Brimstone, and then we went and we walking around. We saw his booth. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, oh, she wants to roll your giant D20. He's like, well, I would, except for it's not really meant to roll on concrete. And he's like, we could maybe do it on the table. And she's like, oh, it's okay. And so I'm like, no, we can just stand along the table like this,
Human barrier.
make a barrier, and she can roll it down the table, and we'll catch it so it doesn't fall. And she's like, no, it's okay. And then like we're clearing the table, and we're like, this is your one chance. So you better take it because we're not doing this again. No, because I was being part of the human
He
barrier.
was the human barrier, and I was rolling.
Yeah,
so
and she rolled it. So
we could have handed the camera to a stranger, but
new comic book character, human barrier.
there we go.
His powers are he barriers.
I know he runs around giving out condoms.
So yeah, beyond the games, I'm also really big into the steampunk community. I love the steampunk. I think I love it mainly because clothes and guns. I mean, what more could you want? Very pretty clothes with really cool looking guns. Mad scientist type stuff.
I have some steampunk ideas that I need to flush out some more. I tried getting into steampunk, like I was telling you, but I kind of had some bad experiences with some people who shall remain nameless, but you know who you are. And it's like I met so many people that were, oh, we're steampunk, but it's like, oh, all we care about is mass producing as much crap as we can and making money off of it. And it's like, that's not what steampunk's supposed to be. Oh, yeah. And speaking of steampunk, thanks for reminding me, Kenneth. We have Weird West Fest coming up December 7th out in Giddings, Texas. It's going to be it's a one-day event, right? It's 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., one day out there at the old train station, and it's all steampunk, Wild West craziness. So be there, because we will.
Or B square.
Yes.
Or something like that.
What's the steampunk equivalent to being a square?
Or
It'd be like
be a gear?
no, because they like gears.
Yeah,
so
that's
it'd be
true.
like be a smooth bore, I guess.
Or be, yeah.
An O-ring.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Uh,
A washer.
Yeah, I don't know. know.
I don't know. Well-
I like the washer, though. We'll go with the washer. That's a good
Be
one.
there or be a washer.
Or be a washer.
Yes. We're going with that. Ooh, we're being told to wrap it up.
Uh-oh.
So anyway, this another year from Austin Comic Con, our third year here, I think. The con that started it all for us anyway. So stay tuned. We got lots and lots of panels, some interviews, lots of floor footage for the first time because we finally had a full crew almost. And people didn't just show up to work one panel and disappear. It was amazing. And so we got more stuff coming up. Like I said, we got Wild West Con or Wild West Fest coming up in December. We got Space City coming back up again in January. Chupacabra Con in January. And lots of other stuff that I can't remember right now. But so stay tuned. Lots more coming. And stay nerdy.